Hello, dear colleagues. There was a mountain near our village that nobody dared to enter. People called it Dark Mountain because it was always covered in a thick fog. Nobody knew what was inside the fog, but everyone agreed that no one should go in there because it was too dangerous. But brave Yigit could not ignore the strange events happening around the mountain. One evening, while having dinner with his family, he heard some screams from the mountain. "What is that noise?" he asked his father. His father, who was an old man, said, "Don't ask me. I'm as scared as you are." So young Yigit grabbed his backpack and went out into the dark. He had to find out what was behind the scary sounds. Yigit walked past the edge of the village and looked up at Dark Mountain. It was so dark that he couldn't see anything, but he still walked towards the mountain. As he moved forward, he felt something wet on his skin. He realized it was fog, and as he got deeper into it, the fog became thicker. Soon he could barely see anything in front of him anymore. The further he went, the darker it got and the scarier he felt. But then he saw something strange. In the distance, he saw what looked like a stone door carved into the side of the mountain. There was something written on the door, but he couldn't make out what it said. "Hello!" he shouted. But his voice echoed and came right back to him. He wasn't sure if it was just a trick of the fog, or if someone was really standing behind the door listening to him. As he got closer to the door, he saw two round shapes on the sides of the door like handles. He pushed them, but they didn't move. Then he tried pulling them, and the door slowly opened. Yigit entered the door. Behind it was a long, dark tunnel. The only light came from the opening at the far end of the tunnel, which made it look like a mouth ready to swallow anyone who entered. Even though he was scared, Yigit continued walking. As he got closer to the end of the tunnel, he saw that light getting brighter. And when he finally reached the end, he saw that the light came from a crystal stone in the shape of a pyramid. It was sparkling and shining brightly. Yigit wanted to touch it, but suddenly a terrible roar echoed through the cave. The crystal stone started shaking and the ground began to rumble. Then he saw a huge black monster with sharp claws and teeth coming towards him. The monster looked like a shadow, like a dark cloud given life. Yigit was very scared. He had never seen such a scary monster before. Quickly, he turned around and ran back the way he came. He could hear the monster roaring behind him, getting closer and closer. He remembered the villagers telling stories about the mountain, how many people had gone in there to explore and never come out. He didn't want to be one of those people. He wanted to go back home, tell his family and friends about the monster and get away safely. But as he ran, he realized he might not get away. The monster was fast and would catch him soon. He could feel its hot breath on his neck and hear its loud growls. Then Yigit remembered the crystal stone. Maybe if he grabbed it, the monster wouldn't chase him anymore. But he couldn't go back. He had to keep running. When he thought he would never escape, he suddenly saw a small opening on the side of the tunnel. He didn't see it before because the monster was blocking it. He quickly ducked under the monster's claws and squeezed through the opening. It was a very small hole and it hurt his legs and back, but he kept moving until he got through. Finally, he was in the open air again, away from the monster and the dark tunnel. He looked back, but he couldn't see anything because of the fog. He was too scared to go back and check. Instead, he decided to take the crystal stone with him. Maybe it would help the villagers somehow. When he turned around, he noticed that the crystal stone was glowing faintly. He held it in his hand and watched as it started to shine brighter and brighter. Then he remembered the stories about the mountain, how it was always covered in fog and how no one knew why. Maybe the crystal stone could help the villagers see what was behind the fog. He walked back towards his village, holding the crystal high above his head. When he got close enough, he saw the other villagers standing outside their houses, looking at Dark Mountain with worried faces. They had probably heard the noise and the screams of the monster. Yigit waved his crystal, and suddenly the whole mountain was filled with bright light. The fog started to disappear, and the sky became visible through the clouds. Everyone gasped as they saw the clear sky for the first time in years. They had forgotten what the sky looked like. They had lived their whole lives believing that Dark Mountain was the only thing that existed. Now they could see that it wasn't true. Yigit walked into the village, and the villagers surrounded him, asking questions. He told them everything he had seen about the door, the tunnel, the monster, and the crystal. Then the oldest and wisest villager stepped forward. "You have saved us, Yeet," he said. "You have brought light back into our lives. From now on, we will call this mountain Light Mountain, and you will be our hero." Yeet blushed and looked down. He didn't do it for fame or glory. He just wanted to help, but he was glad that the villagers appreciated it. From that day on, no one called the mountain Dark Mountain anymore. They called it Light Mountain, and everyone told stories about Yeet, the brave young man who had saved them all. And every year, on the anniversary of his adventure, the villagers held a festival in his honor. They danced and sang and celebrated their hero. And as for Yeet, he became a legend. The villagers told his story to their children and grandchildren, warning them about the dangers of the Dark Mountain, but also celebrating the bravery of the young man who had defeated the monster and brought light back into their lives.